Hi handsome, welcome to my 46th video. This time we are going to do a little bit of bridge to the choir since I need to get this frustration out of my chest. So let's talk about the new hardcore server. Now, I didn't really think of making this video until very recently when the global lab updates came. I was still somehow holding out hope that the dev talk was one big prank and out of season April's Fool's joke if you will. Sadly, that looks less and less likely with each passing day, so this is what we are dealing with. A bit of housework before we get into the big topic on everyone's mind. If you have been living under the rock, the Hardcore server is a new seasonal game mode that aims to recreate the good old open world PvP in BDO by borrowing a formula from extraction shooters. You are dropped into a zone, you collect resources either by killing NPCs or by taking them from other players, and then you extract from the zone with said resources, and repeat it the next day. BDO really did not improve on this formula much with the hardcore server. The only somewhat new thing is taken from battle royales, where if enough people meet in a given spot, only one of them can leave. You can only play this game mode for a total of 2 hours a day, but you choose when those 2 hours happen, and you can even split them into smaller chunks with some restriction on when and how often you can do that. The rewards seem to be fine as well, nothing too crazy, but since this is a mode where you don't need any gear of your own, making AOS the closest comparison in terms of money per hour that we have, it really isn't half bad. So far so good. At worst, it's nothing out of the ordinary, and at best it's a good side activity that you can do when you feel like doing something different than just running in circles. And it might even bring back some of the open world PvP enjoyers back into the game. Personally, I was extremely excited for this update myself, since it was basically everything I wanted. Open world PvP that is equalized and at the same time has something extra to make it stand out. Alright, so I'm blazing the hardcore server so far, and I was very excited before the dev talk came out. So of course when I saw that the dev talk is out, and it has the hardcore server on it, I had to watch it. And well, this was just about as accurate of a recreation of my honest reaction to this information.
A nostalgic throwback to the early days. Only Warrior, Sorceress, Ranger, and Berserker, the 4 original classes, will be available.
I think it's no hyperbole to say that this single decision has most likely made sure that the mode is nearly dead on arrival. Once again, I know that this is me preaching to the choir and people have had 2 weeks of time to think about the entire server and what it means, but this decision isn't bad just because I can't play Tamer. It also fails at what Hurlbis wants to do, which is to bring competition. But let's go through the main issues as to why limiting hardcore to only 4 characters at a time is bad. The main problem really is appeal. Many people main only one class and really only want to play that one class. This means that they might just not play at all, especially if they already were skeptical of the server in the first place, and maybe they will try it out, but if they don't like the other classes that much, they might not stick around very long. 4 classes are 13% of the current video roster. If you want to separate them into Succession and Awakening, it's around 15%. This means that for as much as 85% of the current player base, this mode will have them either play a class they are not as proficient with or a class they have never played before, if they do decide to participate at all. Obviously, this does not take into account class popularity, but it's still a large portion of the player base nonetheless. Second problem is tied to this. Remember, this is supposed to be a PvP mode. People who already main the classes that are allowed in hardcore will have an insane advantage over everyone who makes their class just for that server. This alone makes the game mode not competitive and the decision absolutely stupid. Imagine if they opened a new AOS ranked season and you could only play these 4 classes. It just makes no sense at all. Third problem is mirror matchups. With 4 classes, you have 25% chance, give or take, to play against the same class. This will become even worse if some of those 4 classes that are allowed are underperforming or have a big disadvantage, such as Sork not having a grab among the current roster, or whenever there's a Shy as one of those 4 playable classes in the future. And class popularity will of course also influence how often you will meet the same class. And the final problem is the overall lack of variety that stems from this. If you get bored of playing on your class in the hardcore server, you only have 3 other to choose from, and that combined with you only fighting 3 other classes at most, will just make it feel extremely stale extremely quickly. And maybe that's a good thing in the end that it's only for a month, but even then I don't think that this can really last more than maybe 2 weeks. Honestly, I can't think of a worse decision than to make it only 4 classes at a time. As a person who was really looking forward to a hardcore server, even I am not considering participating because of this decision alone. The only hope I have at this point is that this is not a permanent fixture on the mode. Either they only need 4 classes for the balancing to be easier, or the gear is class specific and will take too long to make, or the server stability was somehow bad when there were too many classes around. I really don't know, and at this point I'm on pure copium and I hope that this is a one-off and it will not happen again. And after this, whatever preseason or however do we want to call this, they will actually make it available for all the classes at all times. During the dev commentary, they said that they don't want it to be overwhelming at launch, which means that it's kind of appealing to new players or players who either are not or have never played BDO before. And there could be a translation issue here, because if it is supposed to be permanent, like they said, and these seasons will be like a rotating characters that you can play, and that will stay for the rest of the hardcore server's lifetime, then it can't be just not overwhelming at launch, it can't be overwhelming ever, because you're always going to have 4, maybe they will increase it to like 6, 8, 10, who knows, but it can never be all classes. And even if we ignore that translation error, it still doesn't make much sense, because AOS did the exact same thing with appealing to new players and players who maybe have not played BDO before, and it did not limit the number of classes playable there. Because if you can play your class, it's gonna be much more important to you, right? You're gonna want to be better on your class, not on some random class you don't care about. One more thing that I just realized is that even if you want this to be a good thing for new players, then it doesn't really make much sense, because since these seasons are only a month long, you will spend a month learning a class in both PvE and PvP as a new player, only for that season to end, and the next time a season rolls out, it's different classes, so you will have to learn another class for a month in both PvE and PvP and do it again, and then in the next season the same thing, and the next season the same thing, and you are constantly restarting from scratch. So not only is this a bad thing from the beginning, it also has the risk of having diminishing returns, because not that many people will want to learn multiple classes over the course of multiple months just for one game mode. It simply doesn't make a lot of sense, no matter how you slice this. I do remember some people saying at the time, during AOS release, that there are too many classes and it becomes difficult to keep up with them and knowing what they all do. I think Lazy Peon even said this in one of his videos when he briefly came back to the game like a year or 2 years ago. But even if we say that there are too many classes, we now have 54 specs if you want to split them into Succession and Awakening, turning 54 into 8, in my opinion, is way too few. It really sucks for me especially, because from everything else they have shown, it looks like the perfect game mode for me. I would play this all the time if I could play as Tamer, since it is a mode with the most potential out of any PvP mode we have had so far. That being said, I will still give the server a try. The only upside I can think of is that almost everyone will be playing a class they are bad on. So maybe I can button mash my way to victory on my Awakening Ranger once or twice. If not, then I hope against hope that Pearl Abyss sobers up and fixes this problem the next time, even if that might be way too late for some. As it stands, this mode is probably only for the people who main these 4 classes, are hardcore PvPers, and for curious Andies like me. That's all I have for you today, handsome. Remember to like and subscribe, and enjoy your grind.